How can you hard?
You guys ready?
Do it.
Guys ready? Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lasky. Mayor Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Keck.
Here.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Here.
Councilmember Ruzga.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
DPW Director. Here. Finance Director.
Here.
Planning and Zoning Administrator. Here. Police Chief.
Here.
Fire Chief.
Here.
City Engineer.
Here.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Disclosure of conflict of interest. Any council member with a conflict of interest regarding an agenda item should disclose at this time. Public hearings, we have none. Citizens' comment on agenda-related items. Any citizens with correspondence to be distributed to council should provide items to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting or after the meeting has adjourned, limited to 5 minutes. Consent agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval, any member of council may have an item removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Items include approval of minutes, cash balances, revenue and expenses, balance sheet, consideration of TJ's block party and concert, consideration of the 2026 Run the Pier racing event, consideration of Trinity Lutheran School 5K color run. At this time, council will take action to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I will second that.
Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lasky.
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Keck.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruzga.
Yes.
Motion approved.
You. Consideration of release of protective covenants on Renaissance Park lots. Some of the council members have expressed interest in removing the protective covenants placed on the Renaissance Park lots. After 30 years, there is concern that the covenants may be hindering development in this area. The declaration of protective covenants for Manistee Renaissance Park Industrial Park could be released upon receipt of approval for no less than 2/3 of lots within the development. The city currently owns 2 of the 12 lots. At this time, council will take action to authorize the city manager and city attorney to prepare and release of declaration of protective covenants for the Manistee Renaissance Industrial Park for the lot owner's consideration, and upon receiving 2/3 approval, further authorize the mayor and clerk to execute any documents necessary to complete the release. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think we should discuss it a bit. Are we just wanting to remove everything? I mean, some of them were good. I didn't like the idea that they had to come to the city to make the purchase and ask our approval to sell. But on some of the things like underground utilities, the access like to M55 versus, I think some of them were good. So if we vote on this release, does that just mean it all goes out the door?
So I'm going to invite Jeff McCullough to give some background on this, but I also have the zoning administrator from Manistee Township here. So they're going to be subjected, these lots are in Manistee Township. It's still going to have those requirements, but we'll start here and we'll talk through it. So Jeff, if you could.
Yeah, just a little bit of background. I was the project manager for the engineer of record when the industrial park was developed. And the state of Michigan created Renaissance zones throughout the state of Michigan to help create industry and competitive, and basically these were kind of tax-free zones. So when the site was approved by the state, the city began design of that industrial park and applied for and received both a grant from the state of Michigan and a loan from the state of Michigan. The loan could be forgiven based on a number of jobs that were created within the Renaissance zone. So every job that was created forgave part of that loan repayment, and obviously the city's goal was to create enough jobs where we didn't have to pay that back and converted the loan into a grant. The layout of the park itself was modeled after Heidelbrauer Industrial Park up in Traverse City. And if you go up there and you drive by it, you don't even know it's an industrial park. It's wooded. The lots were laid out so that there was vegetative and kind of forestry surrounding them. The lots were bigger so that industry could be created. It's kind of the opposite of what the industrial park is at the end of Washington Street, where there is no there's no trees, it's just wide open, and it's just building after building. So the protective covenants were kind of a hybrid of those two issues. One was to create the park and the feeling of that park, with the, no access off of 55, making sure that it was all interior and those sort of things. And then the rest of those covenants were to protect the city's rights so that we could create the jobs and try to get the infrastructure loan forgiven.
I mean, and so Councilmember Lasky, to your point, yeah, one of the elements in the restrictive covenants was kind of that access would be off of this, wouldn't be off of 55, would be off of Renaissance Drive. I think, Karen, if you'd like to come up, but I don't know if your zoning or if that's something, and really this is a township issue. So if that's something they can incorporate when someone applies or plans a site,
I'm
basically
Karen
a site
Kraus.
plan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gamble. I'm the zoning administrator for Manistee Township. So when dealing with a situation like this, the planning commission would recommend that the driveways would come off of the Renaissance Park versus M55. And MDOT would have their input with this as well. So that would satisfy that issue that you have brought up.
Like what about underground utilities was mentioned in there?
Well, we do have an ordinance, Jeff, where I believe that would cover it, where they would be required to connect to the sewer and water if it's available.
Yeah, all the utilities are along Renaissance Drive, so obviously that's where the
Already
connections
in.
would be.
So,
But as far as wires, that is kind of an additional burden to place on the developer to put wires underground, so I don't know that that would stay in place if these were, but that's like, these are the kinds of things that place additional burdens on developers when you say.
Well, I guess I have to disagree with that because we have these covenants in place. And from my point, just getting rid of them is the easy way out because we are not following the covenants we have in place. Most of the people don't build in the 18 months they're supposed to, and they're never held accountable. So is this just the city's way of taking the easy way out? Or should we make amendments that we could actually make it better both ways? Because it's our own fault. We're not following the covenants that are in place. And, make something that at least some kind of covenants that we could actually.
But we don't have people knocking on the door,
Right.
begging for these
Because the
properties.
covenants are in place and, we're giving that land away now, 33,700 an acre minimum. And we're giving it away for less than that. So now we're giving those people, does this make business sense? We're selling that land, well, sometimes it's costing us, at a minimal, under that amount. We're gonna give them the ability to turn around and sell it and make $1 million profit, $500,000. That gentleman who bought, he's in a sweet spot, bought 100 acres for what, $1,000 an acre after we paid for everything? And now he can turn around and sell it?
But
Is
you're
that
not
good
taking
business
into
sense?
consideration that the soil was contaminated there. There was other issues there. I mean, we're not giving it away. If it was undervalued or underpriced, people would have been scooping them up. We wouldn't have had them on the market for over a decade.
As I understand it, it was the covenants that quit them from scooping it up because of the requirements that were difficult, to build in a certain amount of time. They couldn't sell it, so that's, when I talk to different people, that's what stopped them.
one other question, the sewer and water, if there's an issue on that, is that the city liability or is it the township liability? Like if there was water freeze out there, if there was something, because we do have water out there, right?
We have water, we have public water and public sanitary sewer.
So,
So it's treated exactly the same as it is in the city.
so we would be responsible for it if something were to go wrong
We
or
maintain it,
pipe.
Up to a
we
certain
flush it.
point.
Yep.
Okay.
If there's a backup, we go, we
Yeah.
respond to it. Yep,
So it is ours.
And we also get utility fees from that too, right?
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes. So were we thinking that, that we just throw out all the covenants and just say nothing on it, or?
So
Anybody's
the
talk-
whole intent behind this was to create and maintain an industrial manufacturing employment. That just hasn't happened. The time I've been here, over 4 years, we've had a lot of people interested in the property. And the first question is, what do they intend to do there? How many jobs that they can create? We've turned away a lot of people wanting to purchase these because they don't have, they want to do self-storage. They want to do just things that aren't creating employment opportunities. As Councilmember Razga mentioned, there is, you're supposed to construct within a year, and then you're supposed to have complete construction within 18 months. You said it hasn't been followed. It's one of those things where we have these in place, but then it's costly to go after these people legally through the court system to hold them accountable. And I think Blake can talk about that a little bit, but then there's a repurchase. So there's all these things, but it's costly to enforce these as well. And if we're not going to enforce them, I think that's the point. It's kind of like at this point, it's been almost 30 years. Do we want to continue with this, or do we want to spend money on legal fees to enforce these things? But either way, there's going to be a little bit of a cost. But I think this was set up with good intentions. One of the things Jeff brought up this morning was that I think when this was first set up, we were one of the few Renaissance zones, and then the state started giving these away more and more, and so it wasn't unique, and so there were many options. We are still pursuing with the 40-acre site. Andrew Stafford's done a really good job and put a lot of effort with the city's help to put in on my site, the 40-acre site, so we're still trying to attract, but we're using the current tools that the state has to put on the state website for employers to, we're highlighting that property as a place for a manufacturer to come. But this particular incentive, I think, has kind of run its course. And was it a good idea? Yes. But did it attract employers? I think we can look back and look at the properties there now and say it probably didn't come to fruition.
Just another point. Those protective covenants only pertain to the platted property. So that's north of East Lake Road. All the property that the city owns south of East Lake Road and then east of that along M55 are not subject to this. It's just the platted industrial park.
And just to clarify, we released the covenants. We're still going to have the zoning restrictions I hate to say restrictions, but guidelines from the Manistee Township. It's not like it's going to be a free-for-all. We've had the property for over 20 years, and as Bill said, they're not knocking down the doors. And you may have talked to a handful of people, but 20 years is a long time, and it's still empty. It's time to do something with it instead of kicking this can down the road.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we only own 2 lots
Two
that
at
are
this
left in the
point.
plat.
And we just sold one parcel last year and 3 parcels this year. So I think that's pretty good sales. I mean, because I think people now understand that the covenants aren't being adhered to.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we don't want to be the entity that says, come buy this property to enhance the economic opportunities in Manistee, and wink, wink, we're not going to enforce anything.
Right.
So I agree with you that we need to get some information from our attorney and the city manager about what that could look like. I feel like I agree that any agreement that's been over 20 years, we should get fresh eyes on it. And no offense, I'm just one lady who lives in Manistee. I'd rather have our attorney on that, and that firm and their expertise look at more recent updates, so that we are doing what, we're being responsible, we are communicating responsibly, and we're attracting businesses responsibly too.
I think the last thing is, I think, Bill, you'd be good at that, is contacting, like the one sold for $675,000. What is their feeling? And sometimes when you buy land in a place that has covenants, you say, oh, this is a good thing. It's like an HOA or whatever. And sometimes you say, oh, thank goodness, I'd rather have more neighbors here, get rid of them. But I would almost, they did pay quite a bit for that property. I'd almost want a little bit of their input on it.
And Liz, that's the next step, right? Is that
Yes.
2/3 of the property owners have
Yes.
to agree to, I like that we're all talking like it's our decision. I love that, but ultimately, it isn't. And so, what's before us is to get those people the information about what that agreement might look like, in advance of, hey, let's just let's lift all these restrictions. How do you feel about that? I'd rather have something in my left hand, ready to go.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
this is, I appreciate you making this our first step, is, getting with our attorney and Bill, you taking the lead on this, so that we're being responsible. I feel like that's really important.
But the first step is to pass this so they can do that.
Thank you.
That's the first, but that does talk about the 2/3. Yeah, it's not like it's a unilateral, our decision.
Yeah.
This is going to authorize them to
Yes.
make those changes.
Yeah, and put something together that makes sense and that is responsible of this body and the people that are purchasing from us.
But I think the motion is to release all the covenants. We'd have to change the motion.
To release and,
And Blake, it's to create an instrument to potentially release, but it would
Yeah.
ultimately it would be subject to getting 2/3. The city has, that 1/6 with the 2 of the 12 properties. But
I read that to be.
Yep, that's correct. So the motion is to release all of the covenants. So obviously mechanically, you can propose a partial release. So we would have to approach all of the lot owners with draft language releasing a portion of the covenants to get that 2/3 approval.
I see. Thank you, Blake.
So it's the lot owner's decision.
Yeah.
This is just giving us the mechanism, as you said, to do it, or to give them the option.
and to create a revised, whatever we want to call it,
Revised covenant.
revised covenants.
But
Right.
Either way, we have to have 2/3 of the lot owner's
Yes.
permission, correct?
But I think at the same time, we want to release it and then provide their input. And then their vote comes at the final thing.
So just some historic, looking through the old documents, there was a time when the city owned the majority, so they just did a restated covenants and they kind of modified some things. They had an ad hoc group. I think based on just the conversation I could have, Blake and I can work on a draft letter to the lot owners, kind of see if there's an interest in releasing the restrictive covenants or having a conversation about it. But to your point, I do think there's some rumblings, like people who followed it, who see other people not following it, and just knowing that it is ultimately, we'd be responsible for taking people to court, and that's a burden on the city to go to circuit court to enforce on these. So that's kind of, at this point, it would be something we try to enforce that's in Manistee Township, but spending city money on this type of defined relief, which is, I think as council, you probably want to know if you're spending money to enforce on something outside the city like that. Blake, does that cover it? You said that.
Yep, this is not the equivalent of enforcing your municipal ordinances in district court. You're more situated like a private property owner. You would have to bring a civil lawsuit in circuit court to enforce these. And restrictive covenant enforcement generally is very expensive and time consuming. And you'd really have to look at the cost benefit of enforcing these.
Which is why I think maybe how the conversation began. We have this covenant that we're not enforcing. So let's create a covenant, an amended one or a revised one, that is enforceable but yet has some safeguards for the community.
In the township.
Yeah.
And I guess you want to spend city money to enforce on covenants in Manistee Township is really what the crux of this issue is.
That isn't what I said. I said, we have a covenant
Yes.
with rules that we're not enforcing. So we need to change the covenants to something we can live with and are willing to enforce. Because what we have is discouraging people. Because you're looking at this property and it's got these stiff covenants on it. So it turns you off.
So you want to update the covenants
Yeah.
just so they're enforceable and then spend taxpayer dollars in Manistee Township to enforce those covenants?
if it's necessary.
Well, that's what he just said, and you told him that's not what you said. Like, that's exactly what you're saying.
I think, I understand that the attraction of keeping some control over some of the aesthetic pieces or, of that property is there. But I think for the taxpayers and for the property owners, like either it is a covenant or it's not. And if it's not, then they follow the laws and the rules of everyone else who buys property in this county and this state. And to hold it somehow different or sacred for a loan that has long since passed and conditions that have long since passed is, I think we're creating a burden, a financial burden and a legal burden that we can't back up. So with that in mind, I agree that lifting the covenant would help the city and it would, anyone who's buying the property would understand, I own this property free and clear. Just like if it were down the road.
Well, then in that vein, there's probably no reason to even spend money to change the covenants.
Well,
And just leave everything the same.
well, except that, then we're forever kicking this can down the road.
Well, we only have 2 more lots to sell, and they'll probably sell this year, so, or next year.
Or the entity that
Covenants,
sells next.
you suggest that we lift or keep either
For
way.
example, you have to build in 18 months.
I don't think that's, I'm just speaking my mind, I don't think that's enforceable. And I don't want to spend our city taxpayer money to enforce that in someone else's township.
Albeit a beautiful township.
Yes.
Well, and we're not, so, and we're not enforcing it. So if that's the case, and everyone's feeling we don't want to spend the money, then we should leave the covenants just as they are. We're not enforcing them, and we shouldn't pay the lawyers anything more to revise it or go around and get 2/3 votes or anything.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I understand your point of view, and I respectfully hold a different point of view. But now I feel more educated about my point of view, so thank you for bringing that forward so that we could hear it out loud.
Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lasky.
No.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Keck.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
No.
Councilmember Rezga.
No.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of Local Revenue Sharing Board grant applications. The Local Revenue Sharing Board, LRSB, distributes 2% of the funds from Little River Casino. The deadline for the 2026 Cycle 1 applications is Friday, March 13th, 2026 at 5 p.m. City staff have prepared 2 grant applications for submission. This agenda item includes 2 separate motions, one for each application. 1, at this time, council can take action to authorize the submission of a grant application to the Local Revenue Sharing Board for the fire department in the amount of $54,877.40 for the Life Pack 35 monitoring defibrillator. Is there a motion?
I'll
make
make
that.
that motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Heather, would you please take roll?
Heather, I have a
sorry.
point of order. I'm on the Revenue Sharing Board or as the city representative. Do I abstain or
No,
am
you
I?
can vote. You can
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Rezga.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Keck.
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Lasky. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Raditz.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. At this time, council can take action to authorize the submission of a grant application to the Local Revenue Sharing Board for the police department in the amount of $15,403 for the LiDAR device and radar units. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Any discussion on this one?
I guess I'm just curious how the police department uses the LiDAR in practice.
That's a great question.
Because I
Just
can't
the LiDAR or radar? Which one do you want?
No, I get the radar part. I
Okay.
just don't understand the.
Do you know what a LiDAR is?
Yeah, it's like underground stuff.
No, well,
And shapes and different densities and stuff.
That's kind of the science behind it, but it's a handheld radar that our officers can hold. So the value of having a LiDAR is, especially in a city like this with parks and tight corners, you can't park a patrol car past a 12-degree deviation. So you can't run the radar in your car necessarily to get the corners and get the distance. So we used to use 15 years ago is we use a LiDAR. So it's a handheld LiDAR device and allows us to capture the same thing that your car, but again, you can maneuver easier, you can capture traffic, let's say around a loop in a park that you can't capture in a car. So again, we haven't utilized this tool in 15 years. Ours, and we've got employees who are really support enforcement of those things. And so we're gonna breathe life back into our LiDAR program to utilize speed enforcement in those areas so we can have, safe parks, safe neighborhoods, safe school zones.
Boy, was I off how you were gonna use.
Well, the science was kind of right a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to hearing.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't understand.
That's because you don't get speeding tickets. That's why. You're a pure soul.
Why'd you ask me?
Councilmember Grabowski, how'd you used to write speeding tickets?
Did you hear the question? How
How did you used to write tickets? Stopwatch?
speeding tickets?
Well, we used the old ones where the thing had to go down and then you had to make sure it held it where the speed was.
How fast the horses were running.
Ouch.
Thanks, Chief. Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raddatz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lasky.
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Keck.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruzga.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of the West River Street Scape Contract Award. The Downtown Development Authority, DDA, has been working for several years to upgrade the streetscape along River Street. In accordance with the streetscape study, a project was outlined to renovate and upgrade West River Street between Maple and Spruce Streets, creating an event space, bump outs, resetting existing pavers, and repaving the street. The city was awarded a Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, Revitalization and Placemaking RAP grant in the amount of $756,825 to implement the project. The project was publicly bid out with the city receiving 3 bids and was optimized to limit the additional funds from the city and the DDA while the meeting was the intent of the project. The DDA is expected to allocate additional funds at their next meeting. At this time, council can take action to award the construction contract to Trident Construction and approve change order number 1, amending the major street budget accordingly, contingent on the DDA allocating additional funding at their March 11th, 2026 meeting, and authorizing the city manager to execute the subsequent grant agreements contingent on city approval. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about it a little bit, don't you think? That's a big project.
I just wanted to point out the Community Foundation did provide a letter, which I sent to council. Their interest, they provided financial support to the project because it's going to improve accessibility to the Riverwalk and that basically plaza area, also access to the park. So it was due to the improvements over in that plaza area, that's what they were interested in. So between that and the RAP grant, over $1 million and just over $1 million in grant funding towards the project. So just wanted to point that out to City Council.
Okay.
I've got a question on the total cost, I believe is like 1.89 million. The construction cost, 1.56 million. The difference on that is like 0.33. And is that like we have an architect already, Fleece and Vanderbrink, I guess it was, and then right side. And so I'm just questioning, like, is there 300,000 that's going to go into the inspection? That was part I'm not sure
So
about.
there's engineering and there's inspection and there's contingency in the budget, but yeah, I'll let the engineer talk about that.
So in the total cost breakdown that you see, it doesn't have any of the Fleece and Vanderbrink stuff in there at all.
Have we already, where does that come in?
That's all been expended by the DDA. I
So it's
believe
already paid, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then the engineering costs that you see on the project total right here, most of it's been half of it's been expended already from design, bidding, grant application, grant administration, survey work, three-dimensional renderings, design meetings. A lot of that stuff has already been taken care of with that portion. I think it was like 40% actually, and then the remainder is to pay for full-time inspection, staking, closeout documents, more grant administration, material testing, staking, construction administration, all that stuff.
Because it just seems a little bit, Trident probably has a project manager, correct? And so then, I know you're the owner's representative, correct? Overseeing it. And how much is left, like 110? Is that what the inspection cost?
The inspection portion of it is about 110,000. Yep, that's estimated at I think 10 to 14 weeks of full-time inspection with somebody on site the whole time, making sure that everything's being built to specification and to the drawings. And that's typical what we do on all city projects.
Okay, it just still seems a little high. Like Trident is a reputable firm, or we wouldn't have hired them, and they have the drawings. I mean, 50 hours a week of a full-time person down there. Is that what you?
That's typically what we've done since we've hired here. Yes.
Who's liable then for the project if something? You're representing us, but the liability goes back to. Who's liable if there's an issue?
Well, so we make sure, like I said before, that the contractor constructs the project per plan and specification. So if they do not construct it per plan or specification, we're responsible to make sure that the correction to the site or whatever isn't built the right way gets fixed by the contractor. So that way the city or the DDA, whoever our client is, doesn't have to hash that out with the contractor.
In the event that you don't use the 50 hours per week, say there's a delay in materials or whatever, would we be charged for that, or you take a break, or how does that work?
So our hourly rates are figured into that, so if we don't use all of it, then
if you don't use it all,
then we wouldn't, but typically we estimate it based off of the construction schedule.
Okay.
So usually the contractor uses the full schedule.
I guess I'm really surprised you're saying 50 hours a week, because I can't picture someone from spicing being down there watching for 50 hours a week. And I can just reflect back on our last Riverwalk project where, we had community members noting things that weren't correct. So how is there a disconnect, if we're paying for 50 hours a week oversight?
So it does vary from project. On the Riverwalk project, we did, it was probably 10% of that or something.
I was just gonna say, whenever any of these projects begin, we've got a process with the engineer of record where they lay out a scope of work, they form the estimates for us, and then we meet monthly. In fact, we just did this morning, where we go through all those fees, the scope of services, and make sure that they are providing what the city's needs are. That's actually a very good example where the Riverwalk doesn't need full-time construction. When they were doing the decking, that was a daily check. When there was the sheet piling, it was full-time inspection. When they're painting, they may check it every couple days, you know what I mean? A project like this downtown, and that scope of work is more full-time. When we're doing buried utilities, water and sewer, we want eyes on that full-time because you can't see it after they do the work. So I just wanted to come up and just reaffirm that the scope of services has already been reviewed by us and we feel is appropriate. As far as the liability, I think Lucas answered that pretty well. Their job is the front line is to find it, fix it on a daily basis. But then when we have items like on the Riverwalk where citizens were pointing things out, those were things that we are aware of, but the process there is that they get put in the punch list. And the punch list is usually done at the end of the project. Like there's still things on the truck route, there's still things on Washington Street that have to be repaired and fixed and before we release the final funds to the contractor. And then the contractor carries a warranty period of a year from defects.
So Mr. Stafford gave a nice presentation on everything, but then we have the value engineered things to bring costs in. Can you kind of like summarize what exactly happened there? Because, I can look at the line items, but not fixing these bricks doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
Yeah, so, so in our process for design on a project like this on a street, we break every single item of the project into their own pay items. So that way our inspector and the contractor, as they put in pipe, there's a line item for pipe and we measure the footage for that. There's a line item for asphalt, you know, everything's broken into things that can be measured by both parties and agreed upon every single day. In the design, we had, I think, there's like 110 pay items on this job. It's pretty complex. And typically when we do full reconstruction projects, we estimate things like brand new manhole castings, curb spot repairs, stuff like that. That is really nice to have in the project, but the existing structures out there might be okay. So, you know, we met as a group and we're like, okay, maybe we don't need to replace all the castings and, you know, saved whatever it was, 30 grand or whatever. And then went through every single line item and did that exercise for everything.
Okay.
So usually we keep those in as like contingency items. If there's budget for it, we might as well do it right now while the road's ripped up. But it doesn't necessarily have to
So
be.
it was things like that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
mostly
wasn't-
things like that.
It wasn't like, well, we decided not to do the northeast corner for some reason or something.
No, there was a lot of very painful conversations about what do we do if we can't find the money from, luckily the foundation chipped in $250,000, which is awesome. We would have probably had to cut out an entire block of the project because we, like the agenda item says, or was it Jeff or Bill mentioned, but we're trying to meet the goal of the project, and if we were to cut out a whole block, obviously we're not meeting the goal, so.
Okay.
That was most of the value engineering.
Oh, good, it'll be good.
Okay, thanks, Lucas.
Yep.
Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Lasky.
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan. Councilmember Keck.
Yes.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Rezga.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of boards and commissions. The city clerk has taken action to advertise vacancies on the Board of Review, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, Compensation Commission, Downtown Development Authority, Tree Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. Mayor and manager appointments require a motion, second, and council voted support. Nominations for council appointments do not require a second. After all nominations are made, council votes on the nominees until one nominee receives majority support. Following applications have been received. Board of Review, one alternate member, vacancy term ending 12/31/28. The purpose here is property valuation appeals, council appointment. Thad Taylor, 581 8th Street. The Downtown Development Authority, one at-large member, vacancy term ending 6/30/28. The purpose Central Business District and Tax Increment Financing Authority, manager appointment. We have Chad LaFay, 7 Filer Street, and Brandon Ohm, 376 3rd Street. At this time, council and manager could take action to appointments as noted for the Board of Review. Is there a nomination?
I'll nominate Thad Taylor, 581 8th Street, for the term ending 12/31/28.
Thank you. Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz.
Taylor?
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Taylor.
Councilmember Lasky.
Taylor.
Mayor Sullivan.
Taylor.
Councilmember Keck.
Taylor.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Taylor.
Councilmember Rezga.
Taylor.
Nomination approved.
Thank you. Bill, do you want to make your appointment for the DDA?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Brandon Oman for the term ending 6/30/28.
Okay. Is there a motion to support?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll make a motion.
Heather, would you please take roll?
Councilmember Raditz.
Omen?
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Omen.
Councilmember Lasky.
Omen.
Mayor Sullivan.
Omen.
Councilmember Keck.
Omen.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Omen.
Councilmember Rezga.
Omen.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Citizens' comment. This is an opportunity for citizens in attendance to comment on municipal services, activities, or other areas of city involvement, limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. You moving? Okay. Mr. Gamble.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Ms. Rosca.
Regarding the TJ's Block Party application, in the past, we received a page that indicated that neighboring businesses had signed off, and that wasn't included. Is that still gonna be done? Because I couldn't tell from your cover letter if that had happened or not.
Yes, so that was done, and she did break it down into 2 separate pages because when she applied for the DDA, there was a couple missing signatures, and so we made our recommendation contingent upon her getting those remaining 3 signatures. And so it should have been in the document. Yeah, it should have been at the tail end of the document.
Okay.
If it's missing, I can provide that.
Well, I believe you.
Okay, perfect.
Because I thought, that's not like him to not have his all his dots and done and everything. And then also at the Ramsdale coming up on Saturday is the International Fly Film Festival, Fly Fishing Films Festival at 7 p.m. And a new exhibit is opening on Sunday at noon called The Language of Women, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Grabowski.
It was in the paper that we have 89 unregistered short-term rentals. What are we working on, that thing, to get those registered?
I sent a letter to that list today. So we have the Granicus agreement, and we pull all of the Airbnbs that are listed in the city, and then I cross-reference with all of the applications that we've received, and there's 89. Some of them are hotels, not all of them are rentals, as I was going through. But I sent out a letter, and then we hope to get.
And then what will we find if we find that they're
Yeah,
not
we would follow the
registered?
ordinance. We would probably, because it's the first time, I would assume we're gonna issue a few warnings, just to be cautious on. A lot of them are registered as rentals and haven't updated to the short-term rental status. Most live out of state. I would say that's a pretty common thing, or just, they're up to date in the rental program and they're not local. And so probably aren't.
I feel like we need to stay on that. I mean, we went through.
Yeah, and that's the point of
Granicus
the
and
letters,
everything,
and it's a pretty hefty process, I would say, and so Jerry and I have been going through and processing the applications, and there's not a super efficient way to compare that list with the Granicus list, is the only issue in keeping up to date with that, is it is a bit tedious of cross-referencing and deleting duplicates and things like that, but I got my list of letters that went out, and then we'll see what kind of pushback we get back.
We'll follow up and escalate as needed.
Okay.
We did get a couple after it was put in the paper, so I think I'll keep bringing it up at planning commission meetings, and as long as we keep putting it out, I think we get a couple more every time and come up with new strategies.
Well, it'd be nice if we, when you get this thing done with, that the manager gets us some kind of notice so we can know that something's getting done with these things.
For new,
Yeah, when they, you get a bunch of them registered, it'd be nice to know that.
we have 130, I think.
I think what he's saying is as we repair that
Yeah.
list, let us know that we're down to 75 or
I can let Bill
50
know.
or.
I try to keep it in the planning, in this month's planning commission packet, because I didn't have time to act on that list in between, but for the most part, I include that list with our permit report, and so I can share that with Bill on a monthly basis, if that's often enough, or more frequently if you'd prefer.
Well, that's fine,
I
just so
think,
we get
yeah.
some notice.
Okay,
So we get notice
Yeah.
that it's being.
I can share that list with you, Bill, if you.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
a great suggestion. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking the time to communicate with us.
Okay, that's.
Ms. Keck.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Ms. Raddatz.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Smith.
I'm all set, thank you.
Ms. Lasky.
Just one question. Ed, do we ever hear back from the oiling on the well?
So the short answer is no. Heather and I had to do a little bit of research to dig up the actual leases, because those are the controlling documents. So we've gotten those, I've sent them to Blake. He's looking them over to formulate the next steps, and I believe Blake has or will be contacting the state on behalf of the city to see what, so that's where we stand right now.
Okay, thanks for. And any, on the chill grants, how are we coming on those? Are we?
So, the most recent step was the income verification. So before any contracts are signed, income documents can't be older than 6 months. And so, as of now, we were ready to sign documents, and then had to go through and re-verify everyone's income. I would say we're probably a little over halfway through contracts being signed for that. And we're just working through we're still taking bids for a couple projects that, the scope of work has changed or contractors.
Or did you know that? I mean, you don't have to.
So each household, we only have one household that's utilizing the full 40 grand. So of the 500,000, we distributed 40 to each of the 13. And then it came up that if you use over $25,000 and the house is older than 78, you have to test for lead and then use that funding to abate the lead. And so we scaled the projects down to 25. I would say one is using almost the full 40. A couple are close to that 25. The lowest we have is only using 5,000 of the grant. She's declined the rest of the funding. So it's a pretty big mix, but I don't know the total. A lot of them are right on the edge of that 25, and we've worked to get as much of the funding allocated as we can.
The good news is they're working, I think Maddie and Jerry have done a good job. They're getting the contract signed. It's been very busy across the hall. Also, the first roof went up
We did have a
2
roof
weeks ago, so
completed. Yep.
took advantage of that warm weather. So
We got
I think
another
it's
one going up right now, and
so it's curing up. It's happening. So
yes.
That's great. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.